What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the stream, and today we've got Season 1 of Moneyball with the Colorado Rockies. As you can see, we are just into the month of June already, so it's our first opportunity to take a look at the organization and see how we've been faring. So no surprise, we are a pretty pitiful 20-38, already 19 games back in our own division. Now to be fair, this is a major improvement by comparison to our real-life counterparts, but pretty terrible nonetheless. Before we check out individual performances, let's take a look at our injury situation, as we've been hit decently hard these first 2 months. You'll see Jacob Stallings hit the IL with a torn calf. He's been missing about a month and a half. We lost Antonio Senzatella to a broken arm. He'll be out another 3 to 4 weeks. And then down on the farm, we lost Keston Hura to a shattered ankle and Cole Carrig to a ruptured Achilles. So all around, not fun times in the training room. Looking in on the big league hitters, Sean Bouchard has been straight gas for us. He's cranking out an OPS of 886, and he's already slapped 10 home runs. Batting runs up to a clean 15.3 very early on, and a strong WAR of 1. Tyro Estrada's OPS is only 627, and he's got a negative WAR. Big ol' KB may have found the fountain of youth, OPS sitting at a pretty 797. Problem is, he's still not worth his contract right now, but hopefully he can keep cruising along and we can convince some team to take him on anyways. Ryan McMahon has been his solid, steady self per usual, up to 2.0 WAR pretty quickly, and second on the team in batting runs at 12.2. He's on a pretty team-friendly contract, so I think he might fetch a pretty solid return come the end of July. Ezequiel Tovar has had a rough go of it. His OPS is dangerously closing to dropping below 600. And even with his A-plus defense, it isn't enough value to drag his WAR into the positive. Michael Toglia has been interesting at the dish. He was out for a few weeks with injury, but when he's been healthy, his ISO is an insane 309. Not quite taking enough walks, however, so we'll see what happens as he racks up more ABs. Hunter Goodman has filled in admirably with the Stallings injury. Another guy hitting for pretty good power, but not taking his walks. I don't want that to be a long-term thing. And as I say that, Mickey Moniak also fits that bill. ISO sitting just under 170, but the walk rate is a dismal 3.2%. And finally, Brenton Doyle has been a massive disappointment. Coming off a pretty good year last year, I was hoping he could continue that, but his OPS sits around 689 with a walk rate under 5% and strikeout rate over 30. His eye-in defense certainly is raising his floor, but we're going to need more out of his bat. Some good news on the rotation front is German Marquez is back dealing. FIP and component ERA back up a solid ERA, leading to a 1.0 WAR. He's a free agent at the end of the year, so he should be a prime trade candidate if he keeps this up. Kyle Freeland also hasn't been too bad. 0.7 WAR is solid, but his contract may hinder his trade value a tad bit, as he's still on a 3-year deal and he's not the most consistent pitcher, so buyers will be wary of that. Scott Alexander got moved into the rotation due to the Senzatella injury, and I just didn't love any of the AAA options. He's been okay, but hardly good. Ryan Feltner has been rock solid by our metrics, FIP under 3.6 and some strong per 9 numbers. This puts him on track for his second straight strong season on the bump. Austin Gomber has also been pretty solid as well, so our rotation has been relatively on point as a whole. He also has a 1.0 WAR and a good FIP/component ERA combo to support his early returns as being legit. Overall, can't be disappointed into how our starters have performed through the first 58 games. Bullpen has more or less been decent as a whole to this juncture. The only guy I really want to focus on at this point would be Victor Vodnik. Not off to the greatest of starts with the FIP ballooning over 5. Just too many walks and home runs allowed. I might consider sending him back to AAA to work on some things just to get him right. Down on the farm, Adele Amador is off to a bit of a slow start, but the walk rate is there and he's building up his power, so from a development standpoint, I'm not discouraged. Jordan Beck is a former second-round pick who debuted in the majors last season. He wasn't very good in 55 games, but in AAA this year, he's performing pretty well. Hopefully he keeps that rolling and we get him into the majors in a month or two. Drew Romo also debuted in the MLB last year. His AAA numbers to date are underwhelming. The walk rate isn't ideal and his ISO is under 100. Gonna need to see more out of him to be a long-term option for us. Zach Veen, the first-round pick back in 2020, is having a decent year so far. OPS is not a bad 712. With his defense and speed abilities, just hitting about league average would make him a very strong outfield option for us in the big leagues. Warming Bernabel is an intriguing prospect down on our AA squad. He's off to a really hot start. We'll just have to keep bringing his power along gradually, but I think he could have some sneaky upside. Former first rounder Sterling Thompson is also off to a hot start with an OPS of 789. He's not the greatest defender though, so there's a lot of pressure on that 23-year-old bat, but he's delivering so far. It's good to see Benny Montgomery performing well. The 2021 first rounder has struggled in his pro career, but he's playing well early, so let's see if he can keep that rolling over a full season. On the pitching side of things, our top prospect Chase Dollander is performing admirably. He's probably ready for a taste of the MLB, but I'm not too hot to force him into our big league rotation quite yet. Would rather see him max out his development in the minors first and then tackle the challenges of major league hitters. For bullpen arms, all of Aiden Shavili, Anthony Molina, Luis Peralta, Jaden Hill, and Evan Justice have been absolutely on point so far. Lots and lots of bullpen depth in our system currently, so that's something to like. Only two guys I want to focus on here in AA are the 2024 first rounder, Brody Brecht. He's still pretty far away from the majors at this point, but he's doing some good things on the bump to this juncture so far. And then another bullpen arm in Wellington Herrera. The 20-year-old lefty has been super sharp to date and developing very nicely. So that wraps up our May check-in. Let's jump ahead to the draft. And here we are at the draft. Got a pretty deep scouting pool here in the 4th overall pick. Biggest names I'm looking at there are the starting pitcher Alvin Wong and the center fielder Waylon Toth. Kicking this draft off will be the Washington Nationals, and they'll go ahead and snag Wong away from us. Looks like a really good get for them, so I'm somewhat disappointed, but that's okay. We still have Toth that we could possibly get. The Angels take starting pitcher Thomas DeLeon at number 2, and unfortunately at number 3, the Mariners slide in and take the number 1 rated prospect on our board in Toth. Checking out his profile, big-time power and speed, which was tantalizing for me. Did have some concerns about his discipline though, but that upside looks undeniable. After a lot of deliberation, we got down to a starting pitcher in Johnny Singh and the left fielder Curtis Peck. Ultimately, we would decide on Peck and his strong all-around profile. Scouting upside looked a little better, as well as our guys had him ranked as the number 4 prospect in the class compared to Singh's 15th. For our second pick, I had two 22-year-olds who both looked really solid. A catcher in Mariano Caballero and a starting pitcher in Norm Patterson. Caballero looks like a solid defensive option with some decent offense, but I opted for the lefty out of Oregon instead. Patterson with just a bit more scouted upside was the final determining factor. The competitive balance round is usually a nice opportunity to take a shot on some raw upside. Found this high school first baseman out of California with some really nice hitting attributes. A little risky of a pick with a wide range of potential from 61 to 86, but someone I feel is worth a chance at pick 69. Nice. Now into the 3rd round, picks are going to start flying in. This center fielder out of Cuba, Jonas Zuniga, has some pretty good defense and speed profile with some power to boot, so we'll take him. In the 4th round, we'll take another high schooler in Nelson Mortero, who has some really nice power upside. After that, we would snag a relief pitcher who actually looks like a starting pitcher in Robert Iwamura. Potential doesn't look super high here, but he feels like some sneaky good upside. And finally, we'll wrap up this class with a blind shot at a young reliever in Juan Chavis. Overall, I was relatively pleased with our picks. I'm kind of disappointed we couldn't land one of our top 2 guys we liked at number 4, but the rest of the class fell into place kind of nicely. Now we just have to hope our scouts were accurate in their assessments, and these guys have the upside we were promised. Now it's time for the trade deadline, and of course we'll be sellers. Taking a look at our movable assets, Sean Bouchard has continued his hot season, WAR up to 2.6 and batting runs an impressive 26.1. Thairo Estrada has also turned things around a bit. His OPS is still only 653, but he's done enough to get his WAR encroaching on 1.0. I think there's enough defense and speed here to interest some teams. Chris Bryant has basically fallen off of a cliff after his hot start, but honestly, we have to move on from him, and his contract is so bad that I'll just accept literal table scraps for him. I don't even care at this point. Ryan McMahon is one of the top position players in the market this year. Strong batting numbers once again and some pretty good defense. I think a lot of teams will like his affordable team control as well. We've got a couple of pitching options as well that we can deal away. German Marquez looks like a version of his former self once again. His highest WAR since 2021, so we'll definitely be moving him. Kyle Freeland has also put together a strong offering this season, racking up 1.4 in WAR. I floated him to a few teams and got a couple of nipples, so we'll see if we can get anything for him or if we'll just be stuck holding the bag. Now it's time for the actual deals. We'll kick this one off with a pure salary dump. We have to get off of this Chris Bryant contract if we have any shot of affording any halfway decent players on our salary restrictions. We'll be sending him away to the Marlins, who could use some veteran leadership and also someone to fill a void at first base. We'll be getting literally nothing back for him in the 23-year-old C-potential 56 overall center fielder Andrew Pintar. Marlins get a pretty low-risk player here to help them out as they rebuild, and we finally dump a terrible contract. Deal number 2 will be with the Cleveland Guardians. Their rotation has performed pretty well, but with some extra veteran presence, wouldn't be a bad thing for them as they make a playoff push. We'll also be sending Mickey Moniak. They do have Lane Thomas, who is pretty solid, but he is a lefty smasher archetype. Moniak, on the other hand, provides a bit more defensive upside and the ability to hit righties really well. I think this is a pretty solid platoon combo that should bolster their offense, which has just been okay to this point. Finally, we'll be adding in Thairo Estrada as well. Now, the Guardians are pretty flush with middle infielders, and they have the top pick in the 2024 draft on standby, but Estrada can give them another solid bench bat right now with some defensive versatility. He also has 1 year of team control left as well, so this isn't just a one-year move for them. In return, we'll be getting the 17-year-old shortstop international free agent signing out of the Dominican Republic, Welton Francisca. Definitely needs to work on his power with that small frame, but I think we can get that to a decent spot, especially since he has an advanced approach at the plate already. We'll also be grabbing first baseman Kyle Manzardo, the left-hander. He's having himself a nice season, but CJ Kayfus has the same overall and a higher upside, so they probably prefer him over Manzardo, plus their DH spot is filled by Nolan Jones. Manzardo has a pretty solid approach at the plate and some good pop in his bat, so I'm hoping he slides in pretty nicely in the middle of our lineup and can kind of stabilize it going forward. Finally, we'll extract a little more value out of this deal, adding in the 18-year-old right-hand starter, Chase Mobley. Now, he only has 76 potential, but looks like he's got a solid Ks per 9 to work with. If you can get that base on balls per 9 up to par, you could turn it into a nice little piece. One final look at the whole deal. 6 players on the move here as we filled up every last slot. We also offloaded quite a bit of salary as well. For our final deal, we'll be moving our 2 best hitters this season in Sean Bouchard and Ryan McMahon. So someone is going to be adding some beef to their lineup, and that's going to be the Cincinnati Reds. We're just around 500 right now, but that's with both superstars Ellie De La Cruz and Hunter Green on the IL. So they feel like if they can get those 2 healthy and add some key pieces, they could be a real threat in the NL Central this September. McMahon will fill a starting role at third base, while Bouchard could help them out in right field, 2 positions where the Reds have struggled to get some production this year. In return, we'll be taking the starting pitcher Chase Petty. First round pick in 2021, has 82 potential and a solid Ks per 9 offering. He should be MLB ready pretty soon here as well. And then we'll also be getting a power-hitting lefty third baseman in Cam Collier. 84 potential and only 20 years old. Definitely going to have to keep developing him, but I like where the profile sits already and think there's a lot we can do with him. To finalize this one, we'll also be sending Tyler Kinley, who's been having a great year out of the bullpen for us and should help kind of bolster that Reds bullpen. I had to jack up his potential and overall to get it to go through, though, because yesterday in the game, the trade went through just fine, but then I simmed one more day and suddenly it doesn't work anymore, so gotta love that. Anyways, this deal has some really good weight being moved in it. Not really a true blockbuster as there's no superstars on the move, but overall some pretty good players going both ways. Before we move on, let's summarize the totality of our moves. Not a bad first trade deadline for us. Can't complain acquiring 4 B potentials to help our farm system out, which is just screaming for some upside. Checking out our draft picks before we head to the end of the season, not happy at all, to be honest. Curtis Peck is a big flop for a top 5 pick, coming in at only 59 overall and 81 potential. Scouts really did us dirty on that one, so that really sucks. Patterson is a solid second round pick though with 83 potential, but he's also a little further away from the big leagues than I'd like at 59 overall. Jack Hamill isn't too bad. He'll be a 65 overall to start once I edit everybody. And because I'm giving some overall back, he'll actually end up with a 75 potential. Could be better for a competitive balance pick, but not terrible. Jonas Zuniga should make for some solid organizational depth. Same with Nelson Mortero. Would have preferred if at least one of those two had some juice in their potential, but no dice. Robert Iwamura was a swing and a miss with only 64 potential, but still happy I took the shot. And finally, Juan Chavis is honestly a solid 6th round pick, so yeah, at least one of our selections didn't blow up in our face. And now we've reached the end of the minor league season. Our AAA squad, the Isotopes, finished 72-78, while our AA affiliate, the Yard Goats, went 70-68. Neither was good enough to make the playoffs, so let's dive in and see how our top prospects fared. Zach Veen had a pretty good year overall, albeit not outstanding. I would have liked to see him have a little bit more development, but he's in line for a possible outfield role next season in the bigs. Drew Romo's final power numbers are really underwhelming, but he did have a plus 12 growth in the power left, so that's something. Jordan Beck did some solid work at the plate, but not enough to overcome some of his deficiencies defensively, so his WAR was negative. I don't know how to feel about him long term. Adael Amador missed the final chunk of the season with a pec injury. Not a great year out of him either, so kind of a lost season. Fortunately, he's only 21 years old, so there's plenty of time for him to get right. We did push Sterling Thompson into AAA, and he looked a bit overmatched in 183 at-bats. Hopefully he learned some things and can tackle it well next year. Yanquiel Fernandez came in with some big-time pop in his bat, and he added to that with +9 against lefties, but his low discipline really caused him to struggle against AAA pitching. Angel Shivili was outstanding with a 2.14 FIP and 2.4 WAR for a reliever. Kind of feels like he got hosed on some development though by the game. Chase Dollander was solid. I think he's set for a rotation spot next year with the big league squad. Chase Petty was also very solid. May find himself in the MLB next season at some point if things go right. Evan Justice had some great development. He is quickly on the radar as a future left-handed relieving option. We did end up sending Victor Vodnik back down for some more development, and I think it paid off. He looked damn near unhittable in 35 innings. He's very much back on track. Warming Bernabel put together a pretty solid year. Call to be intrigued at his long-term value. But Benny Montgomery fell off of a cliff offensively in the second half. I honestly thought he was turning a corner in his pro career, but it looks like he's shaping up to be a big draft bust. Cam Collier was underwhelmed in some short-term time with us, but I'm not hating on his development growths. Finally, we popped our 2024 first-round pick, Charlie Condon, in AA. Didn't play all that great, but I'm not going to panic over only 132 at-bats. For pitchers, Gabriel Hughes was filthy. A 4.3 WAR is crazy. Mason Albright and Jordy Vargas were both strong performers as well, so we'll keep a close eye on both of them. Brody Brecht wasn't great, but he did put together a solid campaign with some good development as well, so I can't complain. Wellington Herrera's development just kind of froze in time for some reason. I don't think he gained anything since we checked in on him back in early June. Don't love that. Now at the end of the Major League season, an abysmal year as expected, finishing 58-104, 40 plus games out of the NL West. No shocker there, I suppose. Looking at some final team numbers, a 233, 284, 386 slash line is brutally bad. Our pitching was okay though with a 4.04 ERA. Brenton Doyle was our highest value player, but that was entirely defense. Terrible season at the plate, so we definitely need a bounce back year from him next year. Hunter Goodman hit for some good power, but that was about it. Ezekiel Tovar was pretty similar to Doyle, just without the big defensive boost. He struggled so much, I actually gave him a little bump down on his potential, so that's no fun for one of our young stars. Kyle Manzardo put together a nice stretch with us after the deadline. Wish I could see his stats with just us, because I feel like he was pretty good. Solid acquisition. Kyle Farmer absolutely torched his overall with a terrible season. He's probably ready to, be out of the league for good. Tyler Freeman hit below that Mendoza line, so he'll be gone next year. Michael Toglia messed up his ankle pretty bad, so he missed most of the second half. Before that, he struggled mightily on only 160 ABs. Lost season from him, and he's already 26, so time is ticking quickly. And finally, Owen Miller with big old booty cheeks lines from him. We just couldn't get any production from our bench and platoon guys. Austin Gomber ended up being our top pitcher on the year with a 2.4 WAR. Actually had a pretty respectable FIP as well. Kyle Freeland was pretty impressive before a pec injury shut him down for the year. We weren't able to get a deal with him at the deadline, but maybe we can fetch some value this offseason. Lucas Gilbreth was top dog out of the pen. Really nice bounce back year from him. Jaden Hill also flashed in his rookie year. 2.26 FIP and a 1.31 component ERA is really impressive. Tanner Gordon did some good things as well, as we got some of our younger guys a little exposure over the last couple months after the deadline. Antonio Santitella returned from injury in July and low-key kind of shoved in the second half. The FIP could have been better, but his results weren't too bad. Jimmy Herget had some crazy growth in his ratings for a 31-year-old thanks to a great season out of the pen. He'll either be a stabilizing force for us next year, or we'll use him as a trade in some type of a trade package this offseason. Ryan Feltner struggled after the All-Star break, so he wasn't able to build on last year's success. Diego Castillo was pretty much just a guy in our pen. Luis Peralta got 11 innings and a cup of coffee, so that was nice. Still more work to do for the young lefty reliever. Jake Bird and Jeff Criswell were underwhelming bullpen arms. And finally, Carl Kaufman and Seth Halverson basically just 8 innings for us. Not guys I expect to be back in the organization next year. Now let's take a look at the playoff bracket. And jumping ahead to the World Series, we see a matchup of the Cleveland Guardians and the Milwaukee Brewers. So it looks like the trade we made with the Guardians may have paid off for them, as they are on the cusp of a title. Simming through the series, the Guardians will take Game 1, but drop Game 2. And after that, it's 3 straight games at Miller Park and 3 straight victories for the Brew Crew, who take home the 2025 World Series. And that is another heartbreaking loss for the Guardians fans. You really hate to see it. Bryce Terang is the World Series MVP. He's also the NL postseason MVP. Stephen Kwan takes home these honors for the AL. Now just taking a quick peek at the Major League awards for the 2 different leagues. Obviously nothing for us, but maybe someday, right? We did snag a Gold Glove for Tovar, but no Silver Sluggers, which comes at absolutely no shock. But that's all I got for you guys in this one. Season 1 is in the books, and as you can see, we very much have our work cut out for us. Hopefully the moves we made in year 1 can help us slowly build a strong foundation. We can go from there. But in the meantime, between time, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm gone. Deuces!